Hi everybody, this is Dave from Dave's Airplane Corner, and we have another video today, and this one is going to be a little bit more serious, a little bit more solemn, because we're talking about airplane deaths and like how to know for sure if your airplane is on its way out or is it dead already. And some ways to figure out what's wrong with it and maybe revive it. So it's not all bad, and there's some success story in here. But obviously, I've been growing air plants for 7+ years, and I've encountered my fair share of air plant deaths. It's always a learning curve. At the beginning, especially, I find them to be very easygoing and thrive on neglect, kind of like succulents, which is the first kind of group of plants I got familiar with. But soon after, like a few months, I realized that's not quite the case. Yeah, they can do okay with neglect, but they don't show signs of struggle until they're really in trouble usually. So that's kind of what we're here to discuss and make sure you guys know what to look out for when you grow your air plants, and to notice that they're in trouble, and what kind of ways we can do to help them kind of revive or help them improve. So yeah, all right. Now, so we have a better angle over here. We can start to talk about kind of how to tell if your airplane is healthy or not, or is it dead or is it dying. There's a few telltale signs that I would like to share with you guys, and kind of help you to determine what you should do with this plant. So starting from this side is obviously the healthier ones, and these are kind of struggling, and we have some graveyard air plants that I've collected over the year, just for this video. So anyways, as you can see, a healthy air plant should be like this one, with nice green leaves. Even the lower leaves are still pretty green and not crispy yet. Older leaves dying off is normal though, so if you see some brown leaves and crispy ones at the bottom, is not usually a big problem. But if you see some of the newer leaves near the center that has more brown tips, or entire leaf is brown at the top, then you probably want to look more into that. It could be dryness, and sometimes it can be rot as well. I'll talk about that in a bit. So another kind of healthy sign for this plant is I can feel it, and it feels weighted. Even without a pot, you can still feel this is a real plant rather than a fake one. So yeah, I'll talk more about that when we get to this pile. But yeah, and you can also see how the leaves are pretty nicely opened wide, and it's not completely flat. This one is a little bit thirsty already actually. Yeah, but compare this one to this one. These are the same plant. This is Tillandsia aeranthos. So compared to that plant, this one is not in as good shape. It's a lot of leaves are curled in, so showing signs of thirst. And so for something like this, sometimes I would give it an overnight soak, like literally 8 hours, for it to kind of gain back that healthy look. But yeah, it's definitely not dying, but it's also not very happy with you. That's what it would look like. So another one over here, this is Tillandsia funckiana. So again, this is another healthy plant. You can see it has like 3 heads growing at the same time, but it has a bare branch over here. So this used to all be leaves as well. But yeah, the plant, I guess, dried out a few times, and the bottom leaf starts to die off quickly. So when you see something like that, you don't have to worry too much about it yet. It could be stem rot. If you notice the stem is black and mushy, then that's a different story. You want to cut off the stem where it's still healthy. and it will keep the plant alive. But for this one, it was not mushy. It was just losing leaves, so that's mostly contributed by dryness. So yeah, I just remove all the leaves, so that's why there's a bare branch here now. But this plant is in no danger of dying. You can see that it's actually growing pups for me too at the bottom. Some pups wouldn't survive because it's too small, like this one over here. Yeah, but most of the time these pups will keep growing too and become a huge clump over time. This is of course a little bit harder to do indoor. I would say clumping plants are harder to take care of indoor for sure. I've lost quite a few clumps this way. Yeah, it's just I think indoor doesn't have enough airflow and I don't know, just nature, naturey stuff to keep them super happy. So single air plants tend to do better indoors, in my opinion. But anyways, I think if you want to grow indoor for clumping plants, you need to hang it, so it never has any trouble with water staying at crevices and rotting the plant. But yeah, so a plant like this, don't give up on it yet. And we have another one on the same level, and this is kind of also dried up plant. This is a Tillandsia balbisiana, I think. And you can see that some of the leaves have dry tips, kind of browning tips. Yeah, so this plant is just very thirsty. The leaves are also super curly. So another plant that I would give overnight soak, or even just like, I don't know, 2-3 hour soaks every day to kind of help it bounce back to life. But yeah, some of the lower leaves that's totally crispy, you can just remove it, and you can use scissors or shears to trim off the brown tips as well if it bothers you. I'll do a kind of tutorial on that in another video. But yeah, so those are the still healthy but thirsty ones. So we have two in the middle here that are kind of on its way out, but perhaps salvageable. So that's kind of the middle ground here. So you can see this Tillandsia duratii still has some green in it. So that's one thing to look out for, is if your plant still have colors. Because if the whole plant is gray and brown colors, then it's probably a goner, and you'll see here, or you can already see that here. But if it still has some green, this plant is probably salvageable, but it will be a difficult time of recovery. So this plant, I'm not sure what happened to it, but it just slowly kind of faded out and was never able to recover fully. And I've been kind of neglecting it because I don't think it's gonna be saved. Yeah, but I should probably give it a fair shot and try to water it and make it happy again. But yeah, it's definitely not a happy one, but it still has green. So that goes for this poor clump of neglecta here too. You can see a lot of leaves are browned, and there's at least like 3 or 4 plants here. Yeah, but I think only this one, the bigger one here, is still salvageable. Most of them are just not in great shape and probably on its way out already. You can see a lot of brown on them. So again, this is another example of clumping plants not doing so well indoors. You want to give them as much airflow as possible and not have them kind of like squished with other plants too much or buried in a pot. Yeah, so clumping plants, a little bit tricky, and this one is one of those. Okay, so now to the graveyard we go. So these are plants that are definitely dead, no chance of revival. If they look like this, don't try. Compost them. So yeah, so like I mentioned in the few previous categories, if the plant is totally brown and gray, doesn't have any green to it, and super lightweight, like this feels like nothing, it feels like a paper clip in my hand, yeah, then you know this plant is a goner. especially for plants that used to be super kind of heavy. I don't have an example here, but even this, I don't know what this was. Some sort of aeranthos. Yeah. So even for this one, it used to be pretty healthy, but now it's, you know, super lightweight and hollow. Just try to find a few words to describe it so you guys can kind of understand. Sorry if I'm not doing the angles too super good, but yeah, so this again is definitely not alive. This one is a Nana, sadly. I think this one was caused by rot problems. So there's many ways that your airplane can turn into this pile of junk. And let me go through that quickly with you. So number one airplane killer I would say is rot. And usually you would see the center of the plant kind of turning black. Yeah, or even the bottom. It's hard to say. It depends on the type of plant. For something like this, it might be the bottom part turning black. And for something that's rosette shaped, like the xerographica and velutina, then it's probably the center that might turn black first. So when you see that and it's kind of mushy, that's probably rot problem. And this can be caused by many different issues, like you forgetting to shake off the excess water properly, or you leave the plants at a very enclosed area with no airflow after watering especially. Yeah, these can all cause it to rot. Another sign is if it has a little bit of discoloration and you try to tug the center leaf and it just come right off, that's crown rot for sure. However, sometimes crown rot is not the end of the plant. Again, if you still see green, tug off all the leaves that are in trouble, but you can still leave that plant around and it might give you pups. Because basically, when the crown rots, it signals the plant that the mother plant has died, but the healthy tissue on the plant is still going to generate new plants. So yeah, that's happened to me a few times before. Although the pup is going to be growing super slow, and sometimes it's hard to keep them healthy because, you know, the mother plant is not really supporting too much nutrients anymore. So it's tricky, but if you are patient, you can try to keep that plant around and see what it does for you. So second way that plants can get to this state is dryness. I think at least one of the plant here was, yeah, like this one. It's still pretty. But this funckiana, for example, was sadly just lost in the kind of like a corner of my shelf, because when I took the tray out of the shelf, it fell. So sadly, for something like that, you know, you didn't know that it fell, and it just stays there for, I don't know, months, and eventually it just fade out, dried up like this. So this can happen too. I've seen this a few times. So know where your plants are and to take good care of them, unlike I did here. But obviously that's a little bit more preventable problem. What else? Third way to kill your air plants and make it look like this would be sunburn. So especially thin-leaved species like this, they can burn, like strong direct sun, you know, in the mid-afternoon can really fry up your plants good, and you don't want that, right? So generally we don't want direct sun midday to be on the plant for too long. Give it some shade, give it some kind of shade cloth if you can, or put the plants a few feet away from the window, unless it's a plant that you know can take on that level of light. For example, xerographica and tectorum are one of them. But be careful when you give it light also, it has good airflow. For example, a long time ago, I used to think, oh, bring my plants on the car is a cool idea, and it can kind of be like a companion, but you know, with the windows closed and everything, and just like an hour or two in the car, it fried up the plant and it died. So that wasn't, not recommended. Unless you have your windows down the whole time and remove the plants right after you drive instead of keeping it in there. Yeah, so I think that's another way that your plant can die off. So be careful. Most of the time, sunburns is just to partial plants, like partial parts of the leaves, and you'll see like a yellow patch that eventually turn brown. That's sunburn marks, and there's no way to reverse that, unfortunately, but it's preventable. And also, that plant will be weakened a little bit, but over time, new leaves will cover, the ugly ones. So again, sunburn is not always deadly, but it can be. For example, on these thinner leafed species, if it fries the whole plant and there's no healthy tissue left, then the plant is a goner. So yeah, I think that's the idea. The three most common ways your plants can die. To give a few bonus, these are some things that I'm going to talk about in future videos. Air plants can be also susceptible to pests. Not as common as houseplants because there's no soil. But for example, I've gotten mealybugs on my plants. They like to go on the base of the plant and like hide in the lower leaves. So it's really annoying. I hate mealybugs in general, but especially when I first found them in my air plants, I was, destroyed since I thought these guys are like, bug free. Yeah, but at least you don't have to worry about like fungus gnats and thrips. Yeah, those type of bugs don't usually come on these air plants. I think another bug that can attack your air plants is spider mites. So I have seen spider mites on air plants before, but again, very rare. So when you do see pests, obviously try to remove them and get rid of them ASAP. That's another video I'm gonna make, but if you get rid of all the bugs on the plant and repeat the pop procedure a few times in a few days, the plant should survive, yeah, but it might have some damage that will take some time to recover. Another, I guess if I want to mention one more, it would just be, I think an example is this one over here. This is a baby Bootsii, and it was separated by the mother from the mother plant just kind of prematurely. So unfortunately, small miniature air plants like this sometimes just don't make it. They're super susceptible to dryness, and any kind of light level that's not quite right also contribute to the fact. But yeah, sadly, these very cute small air plants is harder to keep. Yeah, but depending on the species, like I don't know, like funckiana and aeranthos, they're usually okay at this size. But I noticed that some of the more bulbous ones, if you remove it early or it fell off by accident, it might not make it and might be added to this pile over here. So anyways, I think that's all I wanted to cover today. I'm gonna cut the camera to the original view and kind of have a closing off. So yeah, hope you guys learned something about air plant deaths and how to prevent them from this video. Oh, look, sun's out. The plants will be happy. But don't sunburn your air plants. Anyways, yeah, so hopefully I didn't miss anything important in this list. If you have any experience or ideas that you want to share with us, of course, please put it in the comment below. I'm always learning more about growing air plants too, so I'm happy to always learn. But yeah, so don't always give up when you see your plants struggling. One brown tip, two brown tips, or some dead leaves is not the end of your air plant just yet. I would like to say that they're pretty resilient and forgiving, but I also don't think they are, easy care and as neglect friendly as succulents and cacti. So yeah, love your plants and they'll love you back. But yes, as usual, thank you for watching this video today, and hope you learned something and had fun. Please give me a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, so I'll be motivated to make more video for you guys. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much, and see you on the next one. Bye.